Everyone, and welcome to the continuing discussion about how little kids learn how to read. So, we've talked about how the school years have a big growth in the child's learning of word usage, so semantics, and in their social language usage, pragmatics. They're also going to be acquiring reading and writing skills, and we talked last week a lot about their prerequisites to that, such as phonological awareness, and then the piece of phonological awareness, that is phonemic awareness. The next prerequisite that children need to have is called print awareness. And print awareness, again, develops through a series of events. And so first, children start to understand that those lines that parents make on pages represent words, which is why you see little ones attempting to copy what they see parents doing with a pencil or pen or marker, and you'll see them trying to color or draw on paper. And they'll say things like, "I wrote my name," because they have the understanding that writing on a page symbolizes something. They understand that print has a purpose. If you've ever been in a car with a 3-year-old driving past McDonald's and they look up and McDonald's, they understand that that sign represents the place that serves them the Happy Meal. Little kids learn to read stop signs, or they'll read Cheez-Its or Cheerios on their favorite snacks. They're associating with the color of the box, with the way the words are shaped or the letters are shaped. They start to associate that with the object or thing that they know. Little kids also understand that in our culture, we read from left to right. They will open a book and orient it the correct way. They'll turn a page in the book and so imitate reading as they have seen it done. Caregivers, once again, play an incredibly important role in developing print awareness. And how can we do that as SLPs, SLPAs, is we make an emphasis on the written word too, by pointing out words on a page, by making the connections between the written word and the symbol on the page or picture on the page. Print awareness is the child's beginning understanding that language itself is its own form of communication. Print awareness develops over time through a series of functions. First, the child attends to or shows interest in letters. Then they start to understand that print has meaning, that it represents something. Then they understand that it has an organization, that it moves from left to right. Then they start to understand which way is upside down, or if something's a letter or not a letter. They understand form, meaning they understand that letters have names. So not only does this group of letters associate with a symbol or an object, but the letters themselves have representation in language. They understand that patterns of letters have meaning. So it's that idea when children start to understand or recognize their own name, that's that identification that that pattern has a meaning. They start to understand that sounds are parts of, or sounds represent letters, and those letters are parts of words, and that they start to understand that part-whole relationship. The stages of reading, again, follow this continuum, just like when we learned about how children learn language. They went from cooing to babbling to first words to words together. Reading is learned in a pattern. And the first stage we call the decoding stage, which is typically occurring between 5 to 7 years old. I emphasize between 5 and 7 years old as typical, because certainly there are children that will read younger than this. There are children that take a little longer to acquire reading skills. And it's attached to cognition, intellect, exposure to literature, interest, all those things that need to be in place the acquisition of the prerequisites of reading, all those things that need to happen before a child truly learns how to start decoding. It's in this stage that children truly start to understand the combination between the letter and the sound, so that they understand that the letter K makes K, and the letter CK makes K, and the letter C can say K. They understand and start to have a grasp of that. It goes through 3 distinct phases. So substitutions of words that are semantically probable is what's going to happen first. So if the sentence says the grass is green, they might say something like the grass is wet, because wet makes sense. And so they're not really looking at the letter symbols. They're just going to maybe guess at what might fit in that sentence. And then it progresses to where their substitutions of their words have similar appearances. And so then the grass is green becomes the grass is gray. So gray holds some symbol relationships between the representation of green. And then in the last stage, they have to do both. Their guesses or their substitutions have to look similar and be semantically possible. In the fluency stage of reading, in stage 2, we see this between the ages of about 7 or 8 years old and between 2nd and 3rd grade. And so what we're seeing now is the child still uses pictures to help them understand the text on the page, but the appearance of pictures is less common now. And they really are building their high frequency words that they've had exposure to over time. They're very used to, and they're not going to stop and decode those words every time anymore. They're pretty fluent readers, especially with words that they are well experienced with. And this is the stage where they actually start to, instead of just decode, they're actually reading and then learning from their reading. And as an example on the board here, they'll start to answer questions about what they have read. In the independent reader, or the reading to learn stage, we see this child between 9 and 14 years of age, a much bigger age range here, right? As children grasp the ability to learn from reading all at different stages. But you'll see children who are now picking up books of particular interest for themselves. They'll start to, I really want to look at the Guinness World Book of Records, or I want to read Harry Potter, or I'm interested in reading Captain Underpants. They're books that they want to learn, or they want to pick up based off of their own individual preferences. It's in these grade levels that we use text as most of the instruction in a classroom, where the teacher is still providing lecture and instruction. The reading is a very strong and important part of how they learn material in the classroom. And then the developing viewpoints, the stage 4 reader, is this high school student, the 14 to 18-year-old, where now they're going to be managing very complex thoughts and ideas. This is when we are assuming they have shared knowledge with us. We're assuming that they can handle various viewpoints. And now, instead of just learning from the reading, they now are going to question what they read. They'll decide, yes, I like that book. No, I don't. That book was written well. No, it wasn't. The author said that this is true. I'm not so sure because I've read this other viewpoint and I think that this viewpoint has more supports. They're able to debate that, the validity of what they read. And then in the stage 5, construction and reconstruction, this is the adult years. And then now we are very selective about what we read. It is through this process that you may like science fiction, or someone may like murder mysteries. So they're very embedded in the type of reading that they enjoy, or the type of written language that they enjoy. And likewise, this is also the time of collegiate instruction, where you aren't just given everything that you're supposed to know. You're expected to be able to read, analyze, select, and construct meaning without it being just painted out for you. there is the implication that you can now take information from the written page, analyze it, and come up with your own theory or your own information and synthesize it together to create your own body of evidence. We know that children who are good readers have better vocabularies and that their language is more complex. Certainly, their world knowledge is expanded. And so the importance of reading, again, if we go all the way back to the early child, reading with mom and dad, the toddler, the preschooler, on your lap reading, it's at that stage that we develop the love of reading, that the importance and value of reading, and through a lifelong process that we teach children the impact that reading can have and does have on our lives, and how they can use reading to learn, to share ideas, to develop ideas, to synthesize information, and to grow into their adult years. We're going to talk about how language continues to grow through reading and through other avenues into the adult years. Written language occurs at the same time as reading does, and children will learn these sub-skills together. And so by the time they have reached those independent reading stages, that 9 to 14 years of age, the child can use their written language to then express the ideas that they are learning in text, and to do it quite fluidly. And by the high school years, they're able to write in a manner that they no longer have to stop and think about their writing, but they can be fluid in their writing skill and the motor skill of writing, just as they are fluid in their expression of ideas. Have a great night, and I will see you next week.